Hi, I'm David, and this is Retirement Overthought. This is where we overthink all the little details about retirement because we've spent the last 30 years not really doing enough of that. So if you're Gen X and you're sitting there thinking, I'm entering my retirement years, you can see it on the horizon, and you've got less money saved than you would expect to pay for a decent used car, it's not all your fault. Some of it is. We all have to take our own responsibility, but the system has sucked. I'm just going to put it right out there. It is not good. And we have had many cases of headwinds. So let me walk you through it. We're the first generation that a very large number of us were raised by a single parent. Single parent households have less money. That means we started behind the eight ball. I myself grew up below a certain line that people don't want to be considered. So this is normal for us. This is where we came in. Small town, large city, didn't matter. A large portion of us were raised by a single parent. They didn't enforce things like child support all that well. So we scratched and clawed by. I didn't ever know that we were poor because the whole family got involved. But our parents, who could be silent generation, could be boomers, the majority of them had pensions. And you know what a pension is. That's that thing where you show up to work for 30 years, they give you a gold watch, send you on your way, and continue to pay you forever, like a reward just for existing. It's super simple, super stable, definitely something we got to enjoy. Wait, we didn't get to enjoy that because by the time we started to work, they had invented this thing called a 401k. Employers started seeing a way to not have to pay so much money and put everything out there. Our parents' generation, 60% of them had pensions of some sort. Show up, work, collect money for the rest of your life. Nearly 2 out of 3 of them. And that was normal. Gen X, about a quarter of us have some form of a pension, and that's either going to be government or union type workers. So if you've spent your career in the private sector, like I have, odds are you got nothing close to what your parents did. So enter the 401k, created in 1978. It went mainstream really right as we were starting to get our first W-2s. The premise was brilliant. You fund your own retirement, you manage your own investments, and you bear all of the risk. And if you make good decisions for 35, 40 years straight, with no financial education whatsoever, you'll be totally fine. What could go wrong? Then, about the time we started, I was born in 70. I've been working since I was 12, so I'm not normal in that regard. But all of us start working through this. A lot of us, right after we got out of high school, there was a crash, or right after we got out of college. For me, I was married, got able to buy a house with the job that I had. I've been working at the same employer since 1995. So, about the time I started getting used to those payments, the dot-com bubble crashed. The dot-com bubble exploded, I guess. And that was from 2000 to 2002. And portfolios lost a lot. We recovered. Get back on our feet, continue working on buying houses, building our life, raising children, whatever. Then 2008 come and smacked us down. And if you're a boomer and you had a market crash hit in your 50s, that's bad timing. But you've got a cushion. It didn't take that terribly long. It took about 4 or 5 years for everything to come back. But you've had decades of compounding waiting for that to come in, and all of that working in your favor. If you're Gen X and you hit a market crash right as you're starting, and then you kind of get back on your feet and you have another market crash, and it knocks you right back down to the starting point again. These are the years that you start to really understand your accumulation. These are your prime accumulation years. It's not your biggest earning years. That's what we're in right now. But it's where every dollar matters most. A dollar when you're saving in your 20s is worth a hell of a lot more than a dollar saving when you're in your 50s, because that compounded interest needs time to work. And we got to watch it all evaporate twice. Some of us lost our jobs, some of us lost the portfolio value, some lost both. And this is fantastic, right? I mean, this is failure upon failure upon failure. So that's why the average Gen Xer did not start saving for retirement until 36. A lot of us actually did. We started saving in our 20s, but then we got hit. And then we got hit again. And I have friends who flat out told me, I don't necessarily think it's smart that I tie my retirement to the stock market. And I get it. In that situation where every dollar is important and the things that you've been putting in, you've watched get wiped out by things that, for the most part, were bad people doing stupid things that had nothing to do with us. This is a bad situation. And we got caught up in it. And so people stop trusting the system and stop putting in without really having anything else that they could do. They think they're going to save. They don't save. That's why a 401k and all of those things are so important. We come out of college. We're the first generation that had spiraling tuition. Our parents, they could work 20, 30 hours a week during college, come out without any student debt whatsoever. They could come out without owing anything. We're the first generation that had student loan debt. So now we've got added debt on top of lower wages comparatively because the job market's not paying for our retirement. You've got the housing crisis that killed value. You've got all of these things. Plus you've got your kids. To buy a house requires 2 salaries. So now you've got to pay for childcare, which also spiked and skyrocketed. None of this is cheap. And all of these are the financial headwinds that we have had. And, our parents had a runway about affordable housing. I remember my mom buying a house when she was a single parent, was able to make it through. And that's almost impossible to do today. They had employer-funded retirement, stable jobs. It looked nothing like what we have today, but we could have saved more. Sure. Now, our parents are the first generation that really upped the age scale. Up until that, if you lived into your 70s, you were a really big success. Now, all of a sudden, we've got parents in our 70s, 80s, 90s. And because the universe wanted to make sure that we stayed busy, we became the sandwich generation. Our kids, if you have kids, fail to launch. You can't get them out of the house because of whatever economics or lack of motivation or whatever the reason is they just won't go away. And then you've got aging parents that need your help. So now you've got both ends actually working against you with still your one checking account. 2 directions, 1 account, no additional hours added to the day. It's not a personal failure. This is the structural feature of being born when we were born. This is the arrow on the map that says you are here. The average Gen Xer has saved $54,000 for retirement. It's not enough. Roughly half of us have saved less than $10K. And a meaningful amount of us have saved nothing. 0. It's not laziness. This is the output of 30 years of driving into headwinds. So, this is the reality of what got us here. It's not whining. This is reality. It's okay to acknowledge what we've had to fight through. It's not unique to any one person. It's the shape of our entire generation. And it's important to know how we got here. Again, this is the arrow. You are here. It's also important to know what's happening next. And if you thought what was behind us was bad, what's coming up ahead might be even worse. And it's not to scare you. If we know what's coming, we can deal with it. And so you'll want to see the next video. I'm going to get into what's going on with Social Security and how much we paid in, when we're ever going to get any of it back, and what happens to us in the future. So please hit that subscribe button. You're not going to want to miss that one. Trust me, you're not going to want to see the numbers, but you need to see the numbers. So I'm David. This is Retirement Overthought. Let's continue to overthink this stuff so that we can hopefully come up with a better plan. And understanding where we are is going to help us figure out how to have a good retirement. So until the next one, I'm David, and see ya.